The message appeared on Ethan Carter's phone just as the wedding guests began taking their seats. I can't do this. I refuse to spend the rest of my life struggling with a man who has nothing. Goodbye for a moment. Ethan simply stared at the screen. The noise inside the grand wedding hall faded. The laughter. The conversations. The music. Everything disappeared. His hands trembled. The woman he loved had abandoned him less than 30 minutes before their wedding. The guests had no idea. His family had no idea. The pastor standing near the altar had no idea. Only Ethan knew. And the worst part wasn't that Sophia had left. It was why she had left. Slowly, he locked his phone and slipped it into his pocket. A painful smile appeared on his face. I guess now I finally know the truth. 3 months earlier, Ethan Carter was one of the youngest billionaires in the country. At 32, he owned a technology company worth several $billion. His face appeared in magazines. His company employed thousands. Investors admired him. Competitors feared him. Yet every night, he returned to an empty house. Money had given him everything except peace, especially when it came to love. The first woman he dated became interested only after discovering his net worth. The second constantly demanded expensive gifts. The third secretly recorded private conversations and attempted to sell them to the media. Each relationship left another scar. Each betrayal made him trust people less. One evening, while sitting in his penthouse overlooking the city, his best friend Marcus shook his head. "You keep attracting the wrong women." Ethan laughed bitterly. "No, my money attracts the wrong women." Marcus leaned forward. "So stop leading with your money. What does that mean? Hide it." Ethan frowned. Hide being a billionaire? Exactly, the idea sounded ridiculous, but the more he thought about it, the more sense it made. If people didn't know he was rich, then they would have to like him for who he really was. Several months later, fate introduced him to Sophia Reynolds. He met her in a bookstore. She was standing on a ladder trying to reach a book on the highest shelf. The ladder slipped. Before she could fall, Ethan caught her. The book dropped. She landed directly in his arms. For a second, they simply stared at each other. Then Sophia burst into laughter. "Oh my goodness, that was embarrassing." Ethan smiled. "I've seen worse. You're lying." "Maybe a little." She extended her hand. "I'm Sophia." "Ethan, no mention of billionaire. No mention of companies. No mention of wealth. Just Ethan." They spent the next hour talking. Then 2. Then 3. When the bookstore announced closing time, neither wanted to leave. Sophia worked as a teacher. She loved children. She volunteered on weekends. She spoke passionately about helping others. Everything about her felt genuine. Different. Refreshing. Over the next several months, they became inseparable. Sophia believed Ethan worked as a project manager for a small company. She believed he rented a modest apartment. She believed he earned an average income, and Ethan never corrected her. One night they sat together eating takeout on his apartment balcony. The city lights sparkled in the distance. Sophia rested her head on his shoulder. "Can I ask you something?" "Anything? What makes you happiest?" Ethan expected many questions. Not that one. After thinking for a moment, he answered honestly. "Peace." She looked up. "Peace? Most people spend their lives chasing success. And you? I've had success. So what do you want now?" He looked directly into her eyes. "Someone who stays." Sophia smiled softly. "I think everyone wants that." For the first time in years, Ethan allowed himself to believe he had finally found someone real. Months turned into a year. The relationship grew stronger. Birthdays, vacations, late-night conversations, shared dreams, future plans. Everything seemed perfect. Then came the proposal. Under a sky filled with fireworks, Ethan dropped to one knee. Sophia covered her mouth. Tears instantly filled her eyes. Are you serious? Ethan laughed nervously. No, I carry engagement rings for fun. She slapped his shoulder. Stop so? She began crying. Yes, the answer echoed through the night. Yes, people nearby applauded. Sophia threw her arms around him. Neither noticed the tears forming in Ethan's eyes. For the first time in his life, he truly believed happiness was within reach. Later that evening, Marcus pulled him aside. When are you going to tell her? Ethan's smile faded. Tell her what? Marcus stared at him. Don't play dumb. You mean my money? Exactly, Ethan sighed. Soon. You've been saying soon for over a year. I know. Marcus lowered his voice. The longer you wait, the worse it'll be. She loves me. Then tell her. Ethan looked toward Sophia. She was laughing with friends. Radiant, beautiful, perfect, yet something deep inside him still carried old wounds, old fears. What if she changed after finding out? What if she became like the others? What if everything disappeared? I need to be sure, Ethan whispered. Marcus shook his head. You're making a mistake. But Ethan wasn't listening. Because at that moment, a dangerous idea had already begun forming inside his mind. One final test. One final opportunity to discover whether Sophia truly loved him, or loved the future she believed he could provide. And that single decision would eventually destroy everything. The idea should have died the moment it entered Ethan's mind. But instead, it grew. Every day, every night, every time he remembered the betrayals of his past, every time he imagined standing at the altar only to discover that the woman he loved cared more about his bank account than his heart. The fear refused to leave. 3 months before the wedding, Ethan finally acted. One evening, he invited Sophia to dinner. The moment she sat down, she noticed something was wrong. His smile was gone. His shoulders seemed heavier. His eyes looked tired. Ethan? He looked up. We need to talk. Her expression immediately changed. What happened? Ethan took a deep breath. The company I work for is shutting down. Sophia blinked. What? I lost my job. Silence. A long, uncomfortable silence. Then she reached across the table and squeezed his hand. It's okay. Ethan looked at her. It isn't okay. We'll figure it out. You don't understand. His voice cracked. I invested most of my savings in a business opportunity. Sophia frowned. And? I lost everything. The words hung heavily between them. Every dollar, every savings account, every investment. Gone. At least according to the story Ethan had created. Sophia sat quietly. Then she forced a smile. Money comes and goes. You mean that? Of course. Relief flooded Ethan's chest. For a brief moment he felt ashamed. Maybe Marcus had been right. Maybe Sophia truly loved him. Maybe this entire test was unnecessary. That night, Ethan nearly confessed everything. Nearly, but he didn't. And that would become the biggest mistake of his life. The first week passed surprisingly well. Sophia remained supportive. She called often, checked on him, encouraged him, even prayed with him. Ethan began feeling hopeful. Then little things started changing. At first, they were almost impossible to notice. A missed phone call, a delayed text reply, a canceled dinner. Nothing major, nothing alarming. But Ethan noticed. Because he was looking. One evening he called her. No answer. He called again. Nothing. An hour later she finally texted. Sorry, busy, that was all. No heart emoji. No affection. No explanation. Just 2 words. Busy. The next day, they met for lunch. Sophia seemed distracted. Her attention constantly drifted toward her phone. Several times she smiled while reading messages. Everything okay? Ethan asked. Huh? You seem preoccupied. Oh, she quickly locked her phone. Just work stuff. Ethan nodded. But something felt different. A week later, things became worse. Sophia canceled another date. Then another. Then another. The woman who once couldn't wait to see him suddenly seemed to have endless reasons to stay away. Work, family, meetings, headaches, exhaustion, excuses multiplied. And Ethan's heart slowly began sinking. One Saturday afternoon, he drove past a luxury restaurant. A familiar face caught his attention. His hands tightened around the steering wheel. Sophia, she sat by the window. Across from a man Ethan had never seen before. The man wore an expensive suit. A luxury watch. Everything about him screamed wealth. Sophia was laughing. The same laugh Ethan had fallen in love with. The same laugh she barely shared with him anymore. For nearly 10 minutes, Ethan remained parked across the street, unable to move, unable to breathe, unable to look away. Finally, he drove off, trying to convince himself there had to be an explanation, a reasonable explanation. There had to be. That evening, he asked her directly, "How was your day?" "Good. Anything interesting happen?" "No," Ethan hesitated. Then asked, "Did you have lunch with someone?" Sophia froze. Only for a second. But Ethan noticed. "A friend." "What friend?" She shrugged. "Just someone I know." The answer felt strange. Cold, dismissive, not like her. Weeks passed. The distance continued growing. One night, Ethan arrived at her apartment with flowers. He wanted to surprise her, maybe reconnect, maybe fix whatever was happening. As he approached the building, he suddenly heard laughter. Sophia's laughter. He turned. She was standing near the entrance, beside the same wealthy man. They were talking. Smiling. Comfortable. Too comfortable. The man opened the passenger door of an expensive sports car. Sophia climbed inside. The car drove away. Ethan remained standing there, holding flowers, watching taillights disappear into the darkness. Something shattered inside him. Later that night, Sophia finally called. "Ethan, where were you?" "What? Where were you tonight?" She hesitated. "Out with who?" Another pause. "A friend." Ethan's jaw tightened. "The same friend? What does that mean?" "It means I've seen you together." The silence that followed felt endless. Finally, Sophia sighed. "His name is Ryan. And?" "He's helping me with something." "What exactly? Does it matter?" The question hit Ethan harder than he expected. Does it matter? The woman who once shared everything with him suddenly sounded like a stranger. A few days later, wedding planning became a disaster. Sophia no longer seemed excited. Venues didn't matter. Flowers didn't matter. Guest lists didn't matter. Everything felt forced. One evening, Ethan finally confronted her. "Do you still want to marry me?" Sophia looked shocked. "Why would you ask that?" "Because you've changed." "I haven't changed. You have." "No, you barely talk to me anymore." Sophia stood up. "This is unfair, is it? You're making problems where none exist." Ethan stared at her. Then quietly asked the question that terrified him. "If I never become successful," she interrupted. "What? If I stay exactly where I am financially, would you still marry me?" Sophia looked away. And in that moment, Ethan felt something he had never felt before. Fear, because she didn't answer immediately. 5 seconds, 10 seconds, 15, the silence itself became an answer. Finally she spoke. "Why would you even ask that?" Ethan swallowed hard. "Just answer." Sophia grabbed her purse. "I don't want to have this conversation." Then she left. The door closed behind her. Ethan sat alone, staring at the empty chair. His chest felt tight, his stomach twisted. His worst fears were slowly becoming reality. Still, part of him refused to accept it. Part of him believed the woman he loved was still there. The woman from the bookstore. The woman who claimed money didn't matter. The woman who promised she would always stay. But as the wedding drew closer, Sophia became even more distant. Calls became rare. Texts became shorter. Affection disappeared. And then, 2 weeks before the wedding, Ethan discovered something that left him completely devastated. Ryan Maxwell wasn't just a friend. Ryan Maxwell was a millionaire entrepreneur. And according to several people, he had been openly pursuing Sophia for months. The realization hit Ethan like a truck. Everything suddenly made sense. The missed calls, the canceled dates, the emotional distance, the secrecy, the lies. Yet despite everything, Ethan still hoped, still prayed, still believed. Because love has a way of making people ignore the truth even when it is standing directly in front of them. And Ethan Carter was about to learn that lesson in the most painful way possible. The wedding day was now only days away, and the worst heartbreak of his life was waiting just around the corner. The week before the wedding felt like a slow march toward disaster. Every conversation between Ethan and Sophia felt forced. Every smile looked rehearsed. Every promise sounded hollow. Yet Ethan continued moving forward. Not because he was blind, not because he was foolish, but because he needed certainty. He needed the truth, even if that truth destroyed him. 3 days before the wedding, Sophia barely answered his calls. When she finally did, her voice sounded distant. "Tired?" Ethan asked. "A little. Want me to come over?" No, the answer came too quickly. Ethan felt the sting immediately. "You sure?" "Yes, okay." Neither spoke. The silence lingered. Finally, Sophia broke it. "We'll see each other at the rehearsal." "Right." Good night. The call ended. Ethan stared at his phone for several minutes. For the first time since proposing, he genuinely wondered if there would even be a wedding. The rehearsal dinner arrived. Family members laughed. Friends shared stories. Everyone celebrated. Everyone except the bride and groom. Sophia looked distracted. Ethan looked exhausted. Marcus noticed immediately. After Sophia stepped away, he pulled Ethan aside. "You still have time." "Time for what?" "To tell her the truth." Ethan shook his head. "No," Marcus sighed. "This test has gone too far. I need to know. You already know." Ethan remained silent. Because deep down, Marcus was right. The signs were obvious. Painfully obvious. But Ethan still wanted to believe. The next morning was the wedding day. Guests began arriving early. Luxury cars filled the parking lot. The venue buzzed with excitement. Flowers lined the aisles. Musicians prepared their instruments. Photographers adjusted their cameras. Everyone expected a beautiful celebration. Meanwhile, Ethan sat alone in a private room. His suit was perfectly tailored, his tie perfectly straight. But inside, he was falling apart. A knock interrupted his thoughts. Marcus entered. "You okay?" Ethan forced a smile. "I've been better." Marcus sat beside him. "Whatever happens today, you'll survive it." "I hope so." Minutes passed, then an hour. Guests continued arriving. The ceremony was scheduled to begin soon. Still no Sophia. The wedding coordinator entered nervously. "Have you heard from her?" Ethan's stomach tightened. "No, we can't reach her." The room suddenly felt colder. Marcus immediately grabbed his phone. "Call her." Ethan did. No answer. Again. No answer. Again, straight to voicemail. A terrible feeling settled in his chest. Then his phone vibrated. A message. His heart pounded as he opened it. The words felt like a knife. "I'm sorry. I can't do this. I deserve a better future than a life filled with financial struggles. Ryan can give me the life I've always dreamed of. Goodbye." Ethan stared at the screen. Again, and again, and again. Each time hoping the words would somehow change. They didn't. The woman he loved had chosen money. The woman he planned to spend his life with had abandoned him on their wedding day. The room became silent. Marcus read the message. His jaw tightened. "She's gone." Ethan nodded slowly. A strange calm settled over him. Not peace, not acceptance, just numbness. After months of doubt, months of fear, months of testing and waiting, he finally had his answer. The guests eventually learned the truth. Shock spread through the venue. People whispered. Some expressed sympathy. Others expressed outrage. Many couldn't believe Sophia would leave at the last moment. Ethan didn't stay. He quietly left through a side exit. No speeches, no explanations, no drama, just silence. For the next several days, he disappeared from public view. He ignored calls, ignored emails, ignored the world. Not because Sophia had left, but because he genuinely loved her. Despite everything. And that kind of heartbreak doesn't disappear overnight. Then, something unexpected happened. 1 week later, Ethan's company announced a major acquisition. News outlets exploded with coverage. Television stations discussed it. Financial analysts praised it. Social media flooded with headlines. And for the first time, the public connected the dots. The ordinary project manager Sophia had abandoned was actually billionaire CEO Ethan Carter. The story spread like wildfire. Within hours, millions of people knew. Sophia learned the truth while sitting in Ryan's penthouse. At first she thought it was a joke. Then she saw the interviews, the articles, the photos, the company records, the net worth estimates. Her face turned pale. No. Ryan looked over. What? She handed him the phone. Ryan read the headline. Then another. Then another. The realization hit both of them simultaneously. Sophia hadn't left a struggling man. She had left a billionaire, one of the wealthiest men in the country. The room fell silent. For several moments, neither spoke. Finally, Sophia whispered, "Oh my God." Everything flashed through her mind. The proposal, the promises, the memories, the love, the future she had thrown away. Tears filled her eyes. Ryan placed the phone down. Suddenly, he seemed less interested, less attentive, less charming, because the challenge was gone. The excitement was gone, and within weeks, Ryan moved on. Just like that. The relationship Sophia had chosen over Ethan collapsed. She had sacrificed true love for what she believed was security. Now she had neither. Months passed. One afternoon, Ethan's assistant entered his office. "Someone is here to see you." "Who?" "She says her name is Sophia." Ethan closed his eyes. For a moment he considered refusing. Then he nodded. "Send her in." The door opened. Sophia stepped inside. She looked different. Not physically. Emotionally, the confidence was gone. The certainty was gone. Regret had replaced both. For several seconds neither spoke. Then tears filled her eyes. "I'm sorry." Ethan remained silent. "I made the biggest mistake of my life. Still nothing. I was selfish." Her voice cracked. I was scared. Ethan finally spoke. "So you left." Fresh tears rolled down her cheeks. "I know. You didn't even give me a chance." "I know. You chose someone else." Sophia lowered her head. "I know." The room fell silent again. Finally she looked up. "Can you forgive me?" Ethan studied her carefully, then slowly nodded. The answer surprised her. "You can?" Yes, hope instantly appeared in her eyes. Then Ethan continued. "I forgive you." A pause. "But I can't trust you." The hope disappeared. "You see, Sophia, the money isn't the problem." Her tears continued falling. "The problem is that when you thought life would become difficult, you ran." Sophia couldn't argue. Because it was true. Ethan stood. "You didn't leave because I was poor." His voice remained calm. "You left because you believed comfort was more important than commitment." The words shattered her. Because deep down, she knew they were true. Ethan walked to his desk and opened a drawer. Inside was the engagement ring. He placed it gently in front of her. Their final chapter. Their final goodbye. I genuinely hope you find happiness." Sophia cried harder. Ethan, but there was nothing left to say. Some mistakes cannot be undone. Some opportunities never return. She slowly picked up the ring, then walked toward the door. Before leaving, she turned back one final time. "I'm sorry." Ethan nodded. Then she was gone. Forever, months later, Ethan attended a charity event supporting underprivileged children. While volunteering, he noticed a woman helping a young boy tie his shoes. The child smiled. The woman smiled back. There was kindness in her eyes. No agenda. No performance. Just kindness. For the first time in a very long time, Ethan felt hopeful. Maybe not every ending was tragic. Maybe not every person would betray him. Maybe the future still held something beautiful. If you've enjoyed this story so far, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and let us know in the comments, what would you have done if you were Ethan? As Ethan watched the children laughing around him, one truth became clearer than ever. Money can attract attention. Success can attract admiration. But only character can reveal genuine love. And sometimes, losing the wrong person is the first step toward finding the right one. The end.